Well, joining us now is the Labour Minister himself, Seamus O'Regan, who is also the MP for the riding of St. John's Mount Pearl. Minister, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Michael.
Now, with the announcement, you will begin this consultation process on legislation that would essentially ban replacement workers. But I'm wondering, what exactly are you hoping to learn? Because Labour groups, they're very clear. They want this kind of protection, and they want it as soon as possible.
Yeah, the devil's in the details, and remember, these are tripartite negotiations, as they should be. So we're sitting down with businesses together to see, what's the best way to go about this. In my tenure now of about 1 year as Labour Minister, I have become a big fan of the negotiating table, and the more that you can keep people focused on the negotiating table, the better. I'm in no way a big fan of back-to-work legislation or other avenues that may occur, even like replacement workers. You want people's attention on the negotiating table. That's where the best deals are done. That's where the most durable deals are done. And that's another big reason why we decided to go ahead with this. It was part of our platform in 2021, so it's not a surprise to anybody. And it is also part of our agreement after that with the NDP. This is something that we were planning on doing. People have known it would come. But I honestly see it as just kind of an evolution of workers' rights in this country that's been going on now for over 100 years. Workers, when they come to the negotiating table, what their leverage is their work. When you involve replacement workers, you are significantly taking away from that leverage that they have at the negotiating table. Okay. So, this I think brings us back to the table and back to what I think will be a level playing field. But I always preface it that, I do believe in consultations, and I don't believe in prejudicing them. So, we'll see what comes out of them.
Okay, see what comes out of them. The consultation will last until mid-December. Now, your commitment is to have legislation, introduced or passed before the end of 2023?
By the end of 2023, that's right.
So passed or introduced?
Introduced.
Introduced,
yeah.
Okay. Why not sooner, though? Because, as I said, Labour groups, they've been pushing the government to move forward with this ever since you made the commitment in the last election, ever since you made the deal with the NDP. The push has been on to have it before 2023, not just introduced, but passed. So why not sooner?
Well, we've also got a second track of what we call maintenance of activities negotiations. There may or may not become part of that legislation. We'll see how that goes. But basically, we want to make sure that every avenue is exhausted before you get to a position where there's a work stoppage of any kind, whether it's a strike or a lockout. A lot of, just to be clear for your viewers, what we're talking about here are the things that are within our jurisdiction, my jurisdiction, which is, the private sector under federal regulation, under federal jurisdiction. And that involves a lot of transportation, a lot of telecommunications. And so, in those areas, we want to make sure, particularly where it affects supply chains like railways, airlines, ports. We want to make sure that we've exhausted absolutely every avenue that we can before we get to that position, before we get to a strike or a work stoppage of any sort. So that's what maintenance of activities comes down to. It means that, in certain circumstances, that both parties, both the employer and the employees, agree that, okay, look, while we're sitting at the negotiating table, we will make sure that these services continue for the greater good of Canadians, for the greater good of the Canadian economy. What does that look like? How can we make that faster? How can we make sure that, again, Canadians are looked after, the economy is looked after, employers and employees are looked after, while parties are sitting down at the negotiating table. So you have both of these things happening, and consultations will occur on both of these, which may or may not both factor into the legislation.
So on the one hand, protecting workers, on the other hand, making sure that the economy is not negatively impacted from them taking what you're saying from you.
Absolutely.
Does that mean that you're concerned about corporate pushback here?
Well, we definitely want to hear them out. Look, I talk to employers as much as I talk to employees. Maintaining that balance as a Labour Minister is one of the reasons why we've had such success over the course of the summer. Michael, when I came in, and very, very soon after I became Labour Minister, we had to deal with CP Rail, you'll recall. a slight work stoppage there, but we got the deal done. But after that, I mean, I was looking looming coming into the summer. You know, CN, Via, Purelator, Loomis, WestJet, Bell. There were a whole host of deals. Some of them that I was worried about in terms of supply chains and just making sure that the economy is okay. All parties came to an agreement there. I've dealt with some amazing public servants in the portfolios I've held, but I got to tell you, the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service, these guys are unbelievable.
You mentioned the fact that this is a promise made by your party in the last election campaign. It's also a condition of your supply and confidence agreement with the NDP.
Right.
Would this initiative have happened without that NDP deal?
Oh yeah, it's in our platform. We were already set on doing it. Before this occurred.
Has it been given greater priority because of the deal?
No, I think it was right on course. We're exactly where we said we would be. But look, I'm very happy that it's that we have the NDP support. And look, I'm a big fan of the agreement that we have with the NDP. I work very closely with my NDP colleagues on just transition and the changes to the to our energy and the transition of energy workers. I say transition, but really what we're talking about is lowering emissions and building up renewables. And we need them to do that. We need workers to do that. So I've been working with unions, but I'm working with my NDP colleagues on this as well. I'm happy that it's a shared priority. I'm happy to have their support. My critic for the NDP, Alexandre Boulouris, stood by my side during the press conference today in the National Press Theatre, and I was happy I'm happy for his friendship and support. He is definitely a harsh critic, but I was happy to have him with me because I know that this is something that he himself, as somebody who's been involved in the labor movement for some 20 years, this is a big day for him. I think personally, I wanted to share it with him.
Okay. Well, with that, I want to thank you for the time. Good to see you, Minister. Thank you for this.
Thank you, Michael.